The queen's heir vanished beyond the city lights, only to be found under the forbidden sky, kissing a human no law could name. If the stars themselves are outlawed, what else will they try to make a crime love or the girl who chose it? Evelyn Thorne reached the last sensor beacon at twilight and cut the motor of her glider to let the desert wind finish the ride. Silence took the air, clean, blue, edged like glass. Below her, basalt shelves stepped down to an old river that the maps pretended didn't exist. Above, higher than the eye could stand, the auroral veil began to wake, a pale river of light that the palace decrees called forbiddens, and poets refused to stop naming. 2 small shapes shadowed her glide path. Ashwing, bronze and ember bright, rode thermals with the lazy grace of something that knew it could outfly everything on the ground. Lumen kept lower, pale as dawn, his halo a steady thread along the darkening rock. Eve's braid lifted in the cold downslope air. She tasted iron and winter on the wind, the scent of a storm that wasn't weather. Tracks, Ashwing murmured into her mind, voice like warm coals. Boots, 2 sets in and out. One light, one heavier. Younger steps lingered. Stopped often. Looked up a lot. Looking up is a rebellion here, Eve said softly. Lumen's calm thought touched hers. And a prayer. She banked once and settled the glider behind a low ridge marked with a rusted warning sigil. Nitrogen monoxide passage beyond this point royal. Sky cordon. The paint had peeled in long curls. The way laws did when they weren't made to last. Voices carried from the riverbed hollow, low and unguarded. Eve moved to the lip of the ridge, keeping her shadow from falling ahead of her. She didn't reach for the blade at her back. That wasn't why she'd been hired. The palace contract called her a neutral mediator in a delicate matter of family retrieval. She preferred the truth her dragons had already told her. Find a runaway girl, and whatever she decided she was running toward. In the hollow, the light lived different. The auroral veil poured itself between cliffs like a slow waterfall, green-white with a heart of blue. It moved as if breathing. And at its edge, bareheaded, breath-fogging, cheeks flushed with cold and purpose, stood the queen's daughter. Princess Kaya had been missing 3 nights. In the capital, nobles made sure their grief sounded like outrage. Patrols hammered the road stones. Envoys whispered about ransom demands that hadn't come. A half-dozen rumors sprouted before the search parties left the gates. Kidnapped, defected, dead, prophetic. None of them were this. She wasn't alone. A human stood with her, jacket around her shoulders, fingers threaded with hers, as if they knew the map of that hand and planned never to forget it. He was taller than Kaya, but somehow made himself smaller, the way careful people do when they know eyes are hunting. His hair curled in the wind. Eve saw the pilot's harness looped at his hip and the way his boots had been resoled with local leather. Not a tourist. Not a mercenary. A man who had learned to stay. I should take you back, he said, voice frayed by truth. Before they find us here. They will find us anywhere, Kaya answered. Here the sky is honest about watching. She leaned in. He did too. They kissed in the blue breath of a law that had outlawed the very idea of looking up. Ashwing's frill rose in quiet surprise. He does not see himself as stealing. He doesn't, Eve agreed. He sees himself as being chosen. Lumen's halo dimmed, as if giving the moment shade. And she sees herself as choosing. Eve could have called out then. Announced parley. Declared the contract complete. But mediators weren't worth anything if they didn't measure the space between the first truth and the next one. She watched a heartbeat longer. Cole, Kaya said softly, what if we never go back? The human hesitated, pain passing across his face like a small eclipse. Then your mother burns a continent trying to make the world look the way her fear says it should. And I become the reason she can. You think I don't know that? Kaya's smile didn't reach her eyes. I have been the reason for 1,000 things I did not choose. A ripple crossed the veil, subtle, like a shiver. The hair along Eve's arms lifted. She had read about the Crown's ancient bargain with the Skya, relic pact that kept orbital guns quiet by pretending the auroral river was sacred and not a relic of planetary engineering. The forbidden sky wasn't holy. It was dangerous because it couldn't be owned. Footfall clicked on stone behind her. Eve's hand fell to Ashwing's neck. His warmth steadied the bone-deep tremor that came with the sound of many men moving like one decision. She didn't need to turn to know the uniforms. Palace wardens in night gray armor, visors mirror dark. Rifles held in the comfortable slant of professionals who believed the word authorized meant inevitable. The commander raised 2 fingers. The line fanned, practiced and precise. "Parley," Eve called, before the world could choose the wrong first word. She rose from the ridge in a clean, empty-handed motion, palms open. Evelyn Thorne. Contracted mediator. "You don't want your report to start with a violation of witness pact." The commander's visor turned. His voice came filtered and careful. "Stand aside, Elf. That is a royal matter." "It's a family matter," Eve said. "And families deserve someone who isn't holding a gun." A new sound came down the ravine, a slender machine, as white as bone, marked with the royal crest. A courier drone, not the heavy thunder of a troop ship. The message line glowed on its belly like a vein. It settled on the ridge and unfolded a holoseal with a hiss. The Queen's crest burned in the air, then opened like a hand. The Queen did not appear. Only her order did. Recover the air. Neutralize the human. Do not break the sky. Eve stood very still. Beside her, Ashwing's throat glowed, but he didn't exhale. Lumen pressed against her hip like a cool decision. In the hollow, Kaya had heard the drone. She turned, cloak slipping, fear and fury wrestling in her face. "Your mother sent orders," Cole said quietly. "She always does," Kaya replied. "She believes orders make the world small enough to hold." "Maybe she's right," he said, almost gently. Kaya shook her head. The world was never meant to be held. Wardens slid down the far slope, boots scraping, rifles lifted. Eve stepped between guns and cliff, between command and already beating hearts. "Wardens," she said. "You fire here, and the auroral veil will arc. Your armor will cook you inside it. You know this." The commander didn't lift his hand to halt them. "We are authorized. Authorization won't keep you alive." Eve said. Cole drew Kaya behind the curtain of light without touching his belt knife. He had one. She saw him choose not to use it. He placed himself where he would block the first shot and take the second. Humans always surprised by choosing the simple courage no doctrine prepared for. Ashwing shifted, claws scoring rock. "Say the word." "Not yet," Eve told him. "If we make this a war, the report will have to read like one." "Evelyn Thorne," the commander said, voice tightening. "You will be named in treason if you obstruct." "Then write me into the story," she said. "But we both know you didn't come to kill a mediator." Something moved in the veil. No, not in it. Behind it. The blue brightened in a slow breath, and the river's edge lapped like a tide against the rock where Kaya and Cole stood. Lumen's pupils blew wide. "It is reacting to them." "To her," Ashwin corrected softly. "To the line she carries and the choice she made." The commander had already tired of language. His visor tilted toward the human. As if angling the future into the easiest shape, he lifted his hand. "Don't," Eve said. He dropped it. Rifles clicked from safe to live. The cliff filled with the sound of inevitability. The veil flashed, and every rifle died. Not jammed. Judged. A wash of pale blue past the firing line. Skinning armor like a hand choosing which lives to leave alone. The wardens swore and smacked receivers that would not answer them. The commander staggered one step as his visor went black, then clear, then black again like a blink he couldn't control. Eve didn't smile. She didn't move. "This is why your order said do not break the sky," she said quietly. Because the sky remembers how to break you back. Cole exhaled as if he'd been holding his breath his whole life. Kaya's hand tightened on his dot from the drone still hovering. The queen's seal pulsed one soft, delayed, as if the sender felt a blow through a long wire. "Stand down," Eve told the wardens. "Call the palace. Tell the queen you found her daughter under a law older than her throne. Tell her the sky is not the enemy, and neither is the human who learned to stand still next to it." The commander hesitated. A man who had been given 3 lines to obey and now discovered he could only walk 2 without dying. He looked at the pair under the light, the missing heir and the man who had not turned her into a story that would make a better speech. "You will come with us," he told Kaya, voice low. "Both of you." Cole turned his head. "Not in cuffs," he said. "No," the commander agreed, surprising them both. "Not in cuffs." The veil drained back to a breathing shimmer, as if satisfied that the first wrong had been refused. Eve felt the pressure ease in her bones. Her dragons finally breathed, but as the wardens adjusted formation and the drone's line brightened to carry something more fragile than orders, another sound cut the evening, a single, high, ugly report that didn't belong to palace rifles at all. A shot from the ridge behind them. Wardens. The commander swore and spun. Eve moved. Ashwing roared. The bullet kissed the veil and sparked, then bent. Its path unmade. It landed at Cole's feet. Kaya stared at the flattened slug and then up at the crowd above as a figure. The shot that shouldn't have been possible flattened at Cole's feet like a sped idea. Kaya's breath hitched. Her grip on his hand tightened until the bones in his knuckles spoke. Above, the wardens broke formation on instinct, half turning toward the second ridge where the civilian in gray sprinted along the shale. "SWITCHBACK." Evelyn Thorne did not shout. She moved one swift arc of cloak and calm, placing herself where others could see her, and therefore hesitate. Ashwing took the higher rock in a single leap, bronze scales sparking. Lumen slid along the lower ledge, his light thinning to a hard line that could become a shield or a mirror as the world decided which it needed. "Hold," Eve told the commander, voice even. "You fire blind up there, you'll ricochet into your own men." "We take the shooter," he said, stiff with embarrassment that the sky had already judged his rifles. "Then we escort the heir." "Escort whom?" Kaya asked, her chin lifting. "The prisoner you were ordered to neutralize, or the daughter you were ordered to recover." The man's visor did not hide the flinch. He gestured to 2 wardens. They sprinted for the shale path, then skidded to a stop as Lumen's faint radiance crossed the trail. Not blocking, only asking. The wardens looked to their commander. The commander looked to Eve. "Go," she said. "But no live weapons. The sky is listening." They switched to batons and climbed to Cole, exhaled once, slow. The flattened bullet lay on the basalt at his boots, still warm. He bent and touched it, as if to confirm it had been aimed at flesh and not theater. "That wasn't palace issue," he said. "No," Eve agreed. "Someone else wants the report to end in a simpler sentence." Kaya's eyes searched the ridge. "They wanted a martyr," she said flatly. "Me for loving him. Or him for being human." "Either would have worked," Cole murmured. "Grief makes better law than truth." Ashwing's mind voice came down the slope, taut with focus. "Shooter is quick, but scared. The kind of scared that thinks a cause will forgive him faster than a mother would. Can you stop him without setting the ridge on fire?" Eve asked. "I can make him look down," Ashwing replied. The bronze dragon bounded higher. On the second switchback he landed hard enough to quake the path. The civilian in gray stumbled, pebbles skittering from beneath his boots, and grabbed at a dry scrub. His rifle clattered. Lumen's light narrowed to a thread and touched the rifle's barrel. The metal sighed and went dull. The wardens reached him a breath later, pinning wrists, breath, and certainty. Eve tilted her head toward the commander. "You'll want names, origins, And the reason someone took a shot at a princess standing under a law older than your payroll. He didn't answer. His visor had turned toward the drone, whose message vein pulsed, then flared. A new hala opened like paper catching fire. Not orders. A face. The queen's. She was not in regalia. She wore a simple dark mantle, hair braided back as if battle quiet were expected in her own rooms. Her eyes, when they fixed on Kea, were not the eyes of a throne. They were the eyes of someone who had forgotten how to exhale. "Daughter," she said. Kea went very still. Then, slowly, she bowed, not from the neck, not from the waist, but from the heart, as if trying to make room for two truths at once. "Mother." The queen's gaze moved sharp to Cole, then to Eve, then back to the pale river breathing between cliffs. "Your message said found. It did not say fired upon. Because we prevented the second word from becoming the only word," Eve said. "Your rifles failed in the veil. Another rifle did not." A muscle in the queen's jaw moved. "Identify the shooter." "Detained," the commander answered. "Alive," Kaya added. Meeting the hala's eyes, "He shot at you," the queen said, as if arguing with a wall. "Yes," Kaya answered. "And I will not build the next law out of his grave." The hala flickered, some interference in the vein, or the queen's heart trying to decide whether to be a crown. "Return at once," she said, softer. "You know why the sky is cordoned." "I do," Kaya replied. "Because the veil answers to no one, and because long ago you bartered safety by pretending worship." "It kept the guns asleep," the queen said. "It kept us from looking up," Kaya said. "And it kept me from being seen." Silence drew between them, thin as spun glass and twice as dangerous. Cole cleared his throat, and Eve watched him step where even wardens feared to tread. "Your Majesty," he said, respectful without kneeling. "If we walk back under a lie, the city will burn when the truth returns." The queen's gaze cut to him. "And your truth is what?" "That you can keep my child safe by standing between her and any bullet aimed at your romance?" "No," he said. "That I can keep standing when the bullet is the first answer to every question." Eve's dragons did not move, but she felt their attention lean. The auroral river brightened a hair, as if appreciating an honest word thrown into the cold. The queen looked away from Cole to the commander. "Recover them, carefully. I will not have the veil judge any more of my men." "Your Majesty," Eve said, "neutral mediation allows terms." "Name them," the queen replied. Eve lifted one finger. "No restraints." "Agreed." "Two," Eve said. "Your wardens walk their weapons cold in the veil and clear at the boundary." The commander bristled. The queen lifted a hand. "Agreed." "Three," Eve finished. "The human walks beside her heir as equal witness until we reach your council chamber. No separation." The hala paused, a queen conferring with advisors on another breath. "He is not subject to our law," she said at last. "He is subject to hers," Kaya said. The queen's eyes closed just once. "Agreed," she said. Lumen eased his light. Ashwing settled a fraction, like a boulder deciding not to roll. The wardens reformed, careful and close. The captured shooter was hustled down, gray cloak dusty and defiance already fraying. Up close, he was younger than his surety had sounded. His hands shook inside the binders. "Why?" Kaya asked him as he passed. "Not anger." "Inquiry." He looked through her, past her, toward the drone's eye. "Because if you marry a human, the house is split, and the outer ring eats us alive." Kaya's mouth compressed. "The houses are already chewing. They just call it tradition." He spit on the rock, an unwise flourish at the edge of dragons. Ashwing's head dipped low. The young man found his courage leaking out through his boots. Eve touched the commander's arm. A professional permission. "Let me walk point. The veil reads me as neutral. If it turns stormy again, it will turn around me, not through you." Do it, the queen said, the hala dimming as if distance were reclaiming her. And mediator. She hesitated, then chose to spend something rare. Thank you. Eve bowed the smallest bow. You hired me to keep the first word from being the last. They began the ascent. The auroral river drew back from the walls, making the corridor of breathing light. Cole kept Kaya's hand in his, not as shield now but as promise. When they reached the ridge where Eve had landed, the drone rose and fell in beside them, a silent scribe. Halfway to the second beacon, thunder rolled dry, metallic. Not weather. Eve stopped. Her dragons froze. What is it? Kaya asked. Guns waking, Eve said. Orbitals, high. The commander swore softly. Reached for a link that wasn't there. The veil shimmered wary, not yet angry. The drone's vein flashed hard. A new order blinked into air. Ugly as panic, sealed return. Nitrogen monoxide public approach. Disperse crowd. Control narrative. Eve read it. Then looked toward the city's far glow where sirens began to tremble the night and small lights gathered, like thoughts around a rumor. The queen had lost control of her secret the moment the veil had answered. Public will meet us at the gate, Eve said. If we're forced through the tunnels, this ends with blood in a hallway and a speech on fire. Cole squeezed Kaya's hand. Choose daylight. Kaya looked up at the sky that wasn't allowed. She nodded. Daylight, she said. The commander hesitated, caught between orders and the shape of the world he could actually walk. Then he made the only decision that wouldn't drown his men. Daylight, he echoed. They angled toward the open road. The veil brightened once approval, or warning, or both, and then. From the city, a new sound rose, not sirens now, but a crowd learning a chant. Let her speak. Eve's mouth tightened. The dragons lowered their heads. From far above, something shifted in orbit, a tiny glint, turning like a thought no one wanted to think. Faster, Eve said, and in the drone's vein, words they were never meant to see flickered for a bare heartbeat. As if a private message had bled through the wrong channel. I am afraid. Mother, the hollows snapped dark. They were no longer walking the retrieval. They were walking the fuse. By the time their escort reached the outskirts of the capital, night had ripened into violet dusk, that trembling hour when the sky still glowed, but faces could no longer hide their fear. The queen's private order had been clear, sealed return. No crowd, no witnesses, but the world had already disobeyed. Word had outrun them, not by courier, not by decree, but by rumor that carried weight. The heir had been found alive under forbidden sky, with a human dot in the city, starved of truth for too many quiet seasons. Had spilled to the gates like water escaping a vessel. People lined the causeway in a swarming hush. Lanterns held low, ears twitching toward the ridge where the veil still bled faint light behind them. Wardens shifted uneasily. They had been trained for crowd control, not for a crowd that stood silent instead of screaming. Silence meant judgment. Silence meant listening. Silence meant, we will see before you tell us what to think. Cole leaned closer to Kaya as they descended the ramp. They think I stole you. Kaya didn't look at him. Her eyes were on the crowd. No, they think I left them. Did you? Yes, she whispered. But not the way they think. A figure broke through the first ranks. Not a soldier, not a noble. A baker still in apron flour, dough strip stuck to his sleeve. He dropped to one knee, head bowed. Sky keep you, Heir, he said, voice shaking. We feared the cannons finally took someone we loved. Kaya blinked, not at the kneel, but at the word, loved, not royal. Not heir, loved. Another voice joined, an elder woman clutching a spindle of fiber. She did not kneel. She set one hand over her heart and said, Did you run from us, child? Or from them? Kaya's throat worked. From the walls that said I belonged everywhere except to myself. A ripple of breath moved through the crowd like a wind finding a new direction. The commander shifted. This was already outside script. "We must keep moving," he murmured. But even he didn't sound convinced. Evelyn Thorne surveyed rooftops and eaves, her eyes counting sniper shapes, not heads. The would-be assassin had not been alone. Someone else still wanted a simpler ending. Lumen raised his head, halo narrowing. 2 watchers. Left spire. Behind third arch. Ashwin's tail swept the dust. Patience. Not yet hostile. Waiting for panic, Eve's voice went low. "They're hoping someone forces the crowd to riot. If chaos starts first, a preventative shot becomes a heroic one." Cole overheard. "So they don't win a fight. They win a story." "Exactly," Eve said. At the palace bridge, a narrow arch of white stone spanning an ornamental channel, the crowd pressed closer, no longer reverent but expectant. 100 eyes turned from Kaya to the human beside her. He felt it like heat, suspicion, and wonder braided into the same stare. A girl lifted onto her father's shoulders whispered, "Is that the one who held her hand?" And her father, who should have hushed her, didn't. Kaya squeezed Cole's fingers once, not reassuring him, but anchoring him. "You don't have to speak," she murmured. "I think I might," he said. She looked at him then, really looked, and he saw the fear in her wasn't of losing him. It was of losing everything else because she refused to dot at the head of the bridge. A warden captain barred the path. "Protocol requires separation before entry," he announced. "Voice trained for ceremony, not conscience. The heir proceeds to the royal wing. The human will be processed separately for no." The commander said before Kaya could open her mouth. The captain hesitated. "No," the commander gestured to Cole. "By terms of parley. He walks as equal witness until council reception. That parley has not been ratified." "It has been honored," Eve said. Stepping forward, the captain's jaw set. "He is not one of us." "He is with her," Evelyn replied, "which means he already is." The crowd heard that. It lived like a spark in tinder. The sniper on the spire tensed, waiting for something to break. Cole stepped forward a single pace, still flanked by Kaya's hand. "You're right," he told the captain. "I'm not one of you." A rustle moved through the people. "But she didn't choose me because I was. She chose me because no one else let her be herself." The captain faltered, not defeated, but disarmed. Cole didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. When someone is only ever seen as an heir, they stop being seen as a person. "I didn't run off with your princess. I stood still long enough for her to stop running." He looked past the guards, to the people. "You don't have to like me. Just see that she came back standing upright, not dragged." Kaya's breath shook. The elder woman from before murmured, "He speaks like mortar, not sword." A spark of approval moved the crowd, which made him a target. Evelyn's head snapped toward the spire. Lumen's halo flared. Ashwin's wings flexed. The second sniper repositioned behind the arch. Kaya sensed it last, but she sensed it. Still, a ripple in the air like a nerve. The first rifle. Barked. Not at Kia. Not at Cole. At Evelyn. The assassin wasn't trying to kill the heir. He was trying to remove the mediator. The one figure making a political killing. Look like murder instead of restoration. Eve didn't blink. Lumen moved first, light forming a barrier in front of her. The bullet hit the shield and disintegrated into silver ash. The crowd gasped, half in awe, half in terror. Warden scrambled. Kaya stepped in front of Cole. This time. The veil beyond the walls flickered. Once inland, a warning pulse that licked the rooftops. Evelyn didn't raise her voice as she spoke to the captain. "You will separate them over my corpse," she said. "And the sky will write King's law over your city when it asks." "Why?" The captain looked at Cole, then at Kaya. Then at the watching thousands, he made the only choice. That would not shatter the city beneath him. Let them pass. The gate opened. The sniper fled into the rafters before Ashwin could land. But the shot had done its work. The city had just seen who stood with the Heir. And who stood against her. This was no longer retrieval. This was reckoning. The palace doors closed behind them with the hush of a sentence not yet spoken. The crowd's presence stayed outside like a held breath, but its pressure followed them inward, truth, refusing to wait in the street. Wardens escorted them through vaulted corridors cut with old constellations, stars etched in stone that no one was allowed to look at anymore. The sky had been outlawed too long. Only ghosts of it remained indoors. Kaia walked close enough for her shoulder to brush Cole's arm. His presence steadied her. But the tremor in her posture said the real storm hadn't arrived yet. It waited in her mother's rooms. A final warden opened a carved ironwood door and bowed them inside. The queen stood alone. Without council or chancellor, no armor, no crown. Just a woman in a quiet chamber. Hands braced on the edge of a table like she needed furniture to hold her together. The door sealed. For 2 heartbeats. No one spoke. Then the queen's voice broke the silence, like a blade slipping from its sheath. You brought the sky to my gates. Kaia exhaled once. The sky came because I stopped running from it. The queen closed her eyes, not weakly, but as if forced to see something she had been outrunning longer than her daughter. When she opened them again, there was more woman than monarch in her stare. You are my heir, she said softly. Your choices decide the next century. You do not get to gamble a dynasty on a feeling. A feeling? Kaia repeated, a tremor running behind the words. You think I would shatter our house over a whim? The queen lifted her chin. You are young. I am old enough to bleed for the wrong reasons, Kaia said, voice raw. And that has always been your measure of duty. The queen flinched. Evelyn stood silent near the mantel, dragons low and watchful. She said nothing. Mediators waited for fractures to reveal what law alone could not. Cole did not speak either. He belonged in this room because Kaia had chosen him. But he understood instinctively that anything he said too soon could become a stone. Thrown into fracture lines, the queen took one slow step toward her daughter. You think I forbade the sky because I fear beauty, she said. But I forbade it because I have already cost this world one love I could not keep alive. And I will not lose a second one to the same war. Kaia's expression faltered. What war? She whispered. The queen's voice dropped. Brittle glass, breaking anyway. Your father. The dragon stilled. Eve's brows narrowed. Kaia's breath hitched. He died in a collapse. In the northern pass. No, the queen said. He died in the sky. The room tightened around the words. He found something in the auroral veil he believed was worth bringing home. Proof that the old compacts were not as dead as our treaties claimed. He broke protocol, crossed the cordon, and the orbitals woke. The guns didn't shoot at him. They simply chose law over mercy. They erased him. Kaia stood frozen. The version of her father she'd been raised on, a fall, a lonely death, shattered in silence. The queen's hands shook for a single breath before she mastered them. You think I feared a human? She whispered. I feared the sky. I feared giving it another person I could not pull back. Cole finally stepped forward, not between them, but beside Kaia, as if literally letting the queen see her daughter wasn't standing alone anymore. You were protecting her from the same wound, he said gently. Queen looked at him, truly looked, as if noticing he wasn't a thief of her heir, but someone who understood loss well enough not to use it as leverage. Yes, she said. But she was never meant to give herself to someone the sky might claim next. Then maybe, Cole answered softly. The sky is not the one doing the claiming. Something flickered in the queen's eyes, pain mixed with terrible possibility. Kaya turned, and her voice no longer held the waver of a child defending a secret. It held the clarity of a woman choosing her future. "I did not vanish because I was taken," she said. "I vanished because I could no longer breathe inside a life built from your fear. I left to choose something that was mine. Not born of treaty. Not bound by blood. Mine." The queen swallowed. "And him?" Kaya lifted her chin, tears gathering but not falling. "He is the first thing in my life I chose before the court could name the cost." The words changed the temperature of the room. "Not confession. Claim. The queen turned slowly, pacing once as if measuring which half of herself would speak next, the woman or the throne. When she faced them again, tears had not fallen, but her eyes shone like unspoken storms. "Do you love him?" the queen asked. Kaya answered without hesitation, "Yes." The queen looked at Cole. "Do you love her?" He didn't flinch, didn't stammer, didn't reach for safer ground. Double quotes, "Yes." Silence stretched, thick as fate. Then the houses will come for blood." Kaya nodded. "Then let them come. They won't challenge you," the queen said. "They will challenge him." "I know," Kaya whispered. "They will demand proof of worth. They will measure him like a weapon. They will not care if he bleeds, only whether his blood frightens them. I know. And if he fails their measure, they will tear you from him and call it justice." Kaya held her mother's gaze. "Then I will fail with him." The queen's breath broke. Behind her composure, something cracked. It wasn't rage. It was grief with nowhere left to hide. "You would walk into ruin for him?" The queen whispered. "No," Kaya said, stepping forward. "I would walk into ruin without him. With him, I walk into a future." The queen shut her eyes, for the first time since Kaya disappeared. She cried, not like a monarch losing control, but like a mother losing the story she had been using to survive her own wound. Evelyn did not move. The dragons let the room be silence. When the queen finally spoke, her voice was glass threaded with iron. "The houses will petition for a trial of claim at dawn. They will not settle for romance. They will demand demonstration." Cole asked the first truly fearful question since he landed in her life. "What kind of demonstration?" The queen looked at him, sorrow first, then honesty. "One that proves you are not the sky's mistake." Dawn came silver and sharp, the kind of morning that looked clean enough to rewrite a world. If anyone dared to bleed on its first page, the trial of claim was held not in council chambers, but on the sky terrace, the highest open span of palace stone beneath the forbidden's veil. If love was to be challenged, it would be challenged beneath the same sky that had first witnessed it. Kaya and Cole stood together before the semicircle of house elders, their crests heavy with old fear disguised as tradition. The queen presided not from her throne, but at ground level, beside her daughter. One deliberate step lower than power was supposed to stand. Evelyn Thorne waited along the perimeter. Dragons coiled behind her like living verdicts held in reserve. A herald lifted a staff. By petition of the houses, he intoned, "The human must prove alignment with the heir's line and fitness to stand beside her. Claim will be judged by resonance, measure, and willingness." "Resonance?" Cole asked quietly. Kaya's fingers laced through his. "They want to see if the sky answers you, and if it doesn't." She swallowed. "Then they say I chose a shadow." The wind tugged her braid across her cheek, but she did not look away from him. "You are not a shadow," she said softly. "No," Cole replied. "I'm a man trying to stay." The first elder stepped forward. His voice carried like frost. "Human, if you carry no bond deeper than infatuation, the veil will ignore you. Place your hand to the stone." Cole stepped to the inlaid sigil at the terrace's center, a circular crest carved into the pale floor. He knelt, placed his palm flat for a moment, Nothing. House elders exhaled, relief disguised as contempt. Then, the stone warmed, not bright, not grand, but steady, a pulse traveling outward through the sigil, like a ripple refusing to vanish. The air thickened the way twilight thickens before stars appear. The veil brightened in. Sympathy. Kaia gasped. The queen's eyes widened, not in fear this time, but in recognition. The second elder stepped forward, brittle as steel. Resonance is not proof. Trial demands measure. Two wardens brought forward a test staff, the old kind, carved of sky cedar and tipped with weighted spine. They offered it to Cole. You will face a house guard. He will strike. You will not. Cole looked at Kaia. I can take a hit. I've taken worse. If you fall, she whispered, I get up again, he said simply. The house guard advanced, tall, armored, chosen to intimidate. He swung the staff without hesitation. Cole didn't defend, didn't dodge. He absorbed, stepping back only enough to protect Kaia from the recoil of the blow. Another strike, ribs another, shoulder, a third knee. The guard aimed for humiliation more than harm. Cole stayed upright, not unhurt, just unmoving. The queen saw it first. This was not submission. It was shielding. He stood as one stands before arrows. Enough, she said, not command, not plea, recognition. The elder scowled. We have not finished. You have, the queen replied. She turned to the assembly. You measure him by how he bleeds, but you do not see for whom he bleeds. Silence spread. Ripple to wave. The final elder rose, the most feared. The one rumored to bend verdicts by shame alone. Willingness, she said. Stepping toward Cole. Will you pay the cost of what you say you are? Will you bind yourself to danger you cannot outfight? Cole squared his shoulders. I already have. The elder's gaze sharpened. Say it aloud. Before the veil. Before the air. Before her people. Cole looked at Kaia and the crowd that had gathered below the terrace, filling every stair and street. No secrecy now. No retreat. He didn't kneel. He faced her standing. I don't love you because you're heir, he said, voice clear enough to carry beyond the terrace. I love you because you are someone who still tries to belong to herself before belonging to a throne. If they strip everything from you tomorrow, I stay. If they crown you tomorrow, I stay. If they call me unfit. His voice tightened, not from fear, but from consequence accepted. I still stay. Kaia's breath broke, a sound halfway between relief and ache. The veil ignited. Not flames, not storm, a sweep of living light that poured outward, like the sky itself bending into witness. The council staggered, robes lit with reflected aurora. The stone beneath their feet glowed in a perfect circle around Cole and Kaia, resonance complete. Measure satisfied. Willingness sealed. House law could not outrank that. The oldest law had spoken. The queen, no crown, no armor, stepped into the glow. With slow, reverent certainty, she touched her daughter's cheek, then turned to Cole, and for the first time since she appeared by drone, her voice carried no crown at all. That I will not lose a second love to the sky, she said quietly. Not by fear, and not by decree. Her eyes shone but did not break. You have my daughter's heart. You now have her mother's protection. Gasps tore through the council ranks. Not outrage, release. The elder who had demanded willingness bowed her head, stiff but yielding. Then the bond is recognized. Kaia could no longer stand still. She turned, took Cole's face in both hands, and kissed him, not hidden under some outlawed sky, but under a waking one. With her entire world watching, the city below erupted, not in riot, not in scorn, but something that hadn't lived in its stones for a generation. Applause. Not for royalty, for courage. The veil flared above them. Not warning now, blessing. The sky, Kaia, had been forbidden to look at, had become the first witness to a world that could change. Not by conquest. By staying. If this story moved you, subscribe for more HFY sci-fi tales where humanity isn't chosen by destiny, but by the hearts that finally get to choose themselves. Stay with us for the next world, the next bond, and the next human who turns fear into belonging.